This episode of the Danger Close podcast is brought to you by Cry Havoc, from New York Times #1 best-selling author Jack Carr. Cry Havoc, a Tom Reese thriller. Order now.
And a nanosecond later, he gets hit. He calls out that he's wounded. I rush out. I'm trying to drag him, and I'm bare-chested, and I could feel, and I'm sure you've had this feeling before, where people are trying to shoot at you, and you can feel the air of the bullet as it goes right by your bare torso. Of course, I had a bare torso.
How are you?
I am great. How about yourself?
Doing great. It's so great to see you. It's I've been using your book for research for my latest novel right here.
Hey.
And I have the other ones, but they went to a different mailing address. So I don't have them physically right here, but the novels are, if they're not already there, they're inbound anyway.
How about that? Yeah.
Well, I think we'll just kick this off. I mean, it's such an honor to be able to sit down and talk to you. Like I said, I feel like I know you because I spent so much time in these pages, which you call a novel, but it's very hard to differentiate what is fiction and not in Surrender Not an Option, which I highly recommend everyone add to their bookshelves. So I want to ask you about the decision to write the way that you did there. But first, you were born in Panama. Tell me
Correct.
about what brought your family to Panama, and then what was it like to live there, grow up there, and how did that impact your decision to join the military?
I'm going to give you a little background to family here. Okay. We'll start off with my mother, on my mother's side. My grandfather, on my mother's side, was born in Tolu, Colombia. Moved to Panama. Panama at that time was a province of La Gran Colombia. In 1903, he was captain of police in Colón. And on Tuesday, November the 3rd, 1903, helped raise the Panamanian flag, signifying separation from Colombia. He was an insurrectionist. On Thursday, November the 5th, 1903, Coronel Eliseo Torres grabbed his Colombian battalion, went across the Isthmus of Panama to Colón, and disembarked his battalion at a place called Mount Hope, which is about 3 to 4 miles from Colón. Unbeknownst to him, there was an American flotilla in the bay there, in Limon Bay. And on the USS Nashville and on the USS Dixie was a Marine battalion led by then John Archer Lejeune. Some people call him Lejeune. And when Coronel Eliseo Torres got to Colón, he realized that my grandfather's unit was backed up by the United States Marine Corps. Not one shot was fired.
Wow.
And therefore, the Panama Canal was built and so on and so forth. Now we go to my father's side. They were originally from Virginia. 1854, they crossed over from Independence, Missouri to California. My grandfather on my father's side was born in 1860. Grandfather.
Wow.
My father was born in 1897. He was a World War I era veteran.
Wow.
In the late 1930s, early 40s, as you well know from history, there was tension with the Japanese and the Germans and so on and so forth. And they were recruiting. My father was tall, 6 foot, blonde hair, blue eyes. So they needed contractors to go down to work on fortifications of the canal. Mm. And that's when he met my mother in 1940.
Wow.
And I was born in 43.
43? Wow.
Yeah.
You've stayed in some good shape over the years.
Yeah, 1943. I'm 81 and a half years old. Make sure you put that half in there, okay?
That's important. Believe me, I get it.
That's important. You know, I'm 81 and a half years old.
Wow. That's amazing. And so where did you guys live down there when you were born? Did you live on an American section or?
We lived in Fort Gulick, which was a military installation there. Then in 1948, my father decided to freelance, so to speak, and we went to Venezuela. And we stayed there from 1948 to 1954. And at that time, there was a dictatorship in Venezuela under Marcos Pérez Jiménez. He was the benevolent dictator at the time. Moved back in 1954, back to Panama. Oh, this is exciting here. December the 31st, 1954, we went to bed with one government. January 1st, 1955, woke up with another one. A few weeks later, there was another one. Wow. So yeah, things were exciting during that time period.
Wow. And I think how long did you stay there?
And we lived and we moved back to Fort Gulick. Went to an American school. Graduated in 62. Went to Canal Zone College as a year-tier junior college. And then finished up here at the North Texas State University up in Denton, Texas, just up the road here. And I made a mistake in my calculations of transferring credits and everything. And plus, I flunked typing. That's another story.
I did hear this. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I flunked typing. And so here I am in 1966. I wasn't going to stick around for 3 credits. So I joined the Army. Huh. And they said, hey, you've got 4 years at college. We're going to make you an officer. And I'm going down that pathway. My second week, I believe, in basic training, I hear this booming voice behind me, Private Pugh. And I turn around and all I see is this helmet with a shiny gold bar. And he is reading me the riot act. And I have no idea what I did wrong. Finally gets up real close to me, lifts up his helmet. He says, hey, Gene, it's me, Steve. Some dumb dodo that I knew up here from North Texas State. And so I tell him what was happening about going to OCS and everything else. And he says, don't do it. Don't do it. He says, why not? You're an officer. He says, they're going to put a gold bar on you. They're going to send you to Vietnam. Have you seen the casualty reports? I said, no, I haven't. I checked out the casualty reports, second lieutenant, second lieutenant, second lieutenant, second lieutenant. So I went back to the first sergeant and I said, First Sergeant, I'd like to reconsider becoming an officer. I want to experience the Army first. That's my boy. That's my boy. and then I pissed him off when I volunteered for Special Forces.
Oh my goodness. Did you do that right then? Before you go in, like you go in knowing that you're going to go on some sort of a track that's going to take you to Fort Benning for airborne and then to the Q course or whatever it was called at the time?
Actually, I was going to be a clerk typist, believe it or not. And I did not like that, but they said, hey, you had 4 years of college and
You're like, yeah, but I failed typing. That's the only thing I failed.
right. So here, that's what we call military intelligence. But anyway, so here we are, and I volunteered for Special Forces. And a week or two later, I report back to the first sergeant, and he says for me to report to get an airborne physical. And I said, I did not volunteer for airborne. He says, listen to me, private. You volunteered for Special Forces. I said, yes, I did. Said, you have to be airborne qualified to join that outfit. Now listen to me, private. There's only two things that fall out of the sky. That's dumb shit and bird shit. Now, which one are you? I said, I guess I'm a dumb shit. Get the hell out of my office. So that was it.
No kidding. What did growing up down in Panama? Did you spend any time out in the jungle? Did you do anything like?
Oh, good Lord, yes.
Okay.
In fact, the 8th Special Forces Group was down there already. So I was already familiar with Special Forces.
Okay.
And living in Fort Gulick, the jungle was our playground. I mean, we of course played Army and all this other stuff and so the jungle, I was comfortable. It was home. So when I got to Vietnam, I was going back home. I could read the jungle, the noises, the ambiance. I would say that it could almost talk to me. Just the way, just the sounds and the smells and everything else. It was home. I felt comfortable versus a guy that came from New York or Chicago or Georgia or whatever. Mm-hmm. I just felt comfortable in the jungle.
Wow.
And so that was it. Yeah.
So what was that path then? You got some sort of a basic, then to Benning for airborne, which probably did not change much between your time and my time, which I went through Benning in 97. I'm pretty sure it was almost exactly the same. And then you do some more training stateside and then go over?
Then I did my stateside training. I was a commo guy, diddy-dum-dum-diddy, Morse code. And then I was assigned to Charlie Company of the 6th Special Forces Group, which was active at that time. And once you got into an ODA, Operational Detachment Alpha, at that time you were given to say, hey, you're going to have a secondary MOS. So I became an assistant medic, 6 weeks training within the team. And because I spoke Spanish and French, they said you're going to be intel. So I took a short intel course, not the full-blown intel, but the short version of it, mostly interrogation. And turned out to be that intel and first aid are together, because when you have someone that's an enemy combatant or whatever, you're applying the wound, taking care of the wound, you're asking him questions. Or a civilian, where did you get the wound? Where around your camp were the booby traps, and so on and so forth. So you can get a lot of intelligence just being a medic.
Yeah.
So that was instrumental, very, very much so.
Since 2003, Bravo Company Manufacturing, founded by a U.S. Marine veteran in Heartland, Wisconsin, has been crafting mission-ready weapon components for professionals who demand reliability. Trusted by U.S. Special Operations, law enforcement, and responsible citizens worldwide, BCM gear is engineered and tested to perform in the most unforgiving environments. Every BCM tool is built and tested as if your life depends on it. Go to Bravo Company USA for more information. Bravo Company, American-made, duty-built. So you knew about Special Forces because you saw them down in Panama. You saw those Green Berets down there.
Yes.
And then when do you find out about MACV-SOG?
When we got in country.
Okay. Where do you think you're going?
I was going to an A camp.
Okay.
Because when we're at Fort Bragg, you're trained to be an advisor. You learn crew serve weapons, camp defense, the whole thing in protecting your camp. You're taught company tactics, company operations. And so that's the mentality that I had going to Vietnam. So I was prepared to go to an A camp. And when I got there, we're going through the in processing, and they write C and C, Charlie and Charlie, on my folder. And I'm going, what's that? Says, oh, you're going to a project. Well, what's that? He says, well, we can't tell you. Lo and behold, at that time, that was what we call the COC or COC course, Combat Orientation Course. And one of the instructors was Fred Zabatowski. Fred Zabatowski at that time was recuperating from the wounds that he would eventually get the Medal of Honor. And he was one of my instructors. And of course, I reestablished the friendship with him again. And so I said, hey, Fred, CNC, what is this? He says, Gene, you have not been briefed on it yet, but when I get to small unit tactics, pay attention, get yourself into a lot of shape, especially running. And that's all I can tell you at this time. And when I got to Da Nang, we were brought into this room. There were 17 of us, 17. And there was a big wall. They pulled back the curtain. And then they said, boys and girls, this is what we do. We are long-range reconnaissance. North Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, small reconnaissance teams, two to three Americans and 4 to 6 indigenous personnel. We have platoon, company-size operations known as Hatchet Force. And they gave us the rundown. And he said, okay, now, if you feel that this is not your cup of tea, there's the door. And we're all looking around to see who the first one's going to go out that door. No one went out that door. And I was looking forward to run recon. I mean, I really was. That was it. But then, being a radio operator, they needed someone in the Tactical Operations Center, in the Message Center to be exact. So Sergeant Quiroga got all the radio operators, and he said, listen, I need 4 men. And no one's going to move out of this room until I get 4 men. So we stayed there for 30 minutes because no one's budging. So finally, we kind of looked at each other, and I said, okay, I'll stay, providing that I get to run recon. He says, you can start looking for your replacement tomorrow. But today, you're mine. Okay, fine. So from that, the next day, I was looking for my replacement. And as soon as I found him, I went to recon. And I was assigned to RT-ASP. Let me backtrack a little bit. RT-ASP at the time was the only North Vietnamese indigenous team in camp at that time. In fact, it used to be the old Thundercloud team under Ops 34. They would send them up north to North Vietnam, gather intelligence information, and but they felt that they were not getting reliable information from the team. So they transferred them from Ops 34 to Ops 35. And of course, that's what we were.
Now, were they defectors, or did they just happen?
They had been captured.
They'd been captured, so they were
captured,
so they were defectors against their will.
Right. And so someone made them an offer they couldn't refuse.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
What was that like? How could you, there's no polys. I'm guessing you're not running polys on them back then. There's no baseline really anyway, no background other than what they told you in initial interrogations. What was that like, having to trust people that could have easily been planted or not even planted, just people that said, I'm doing this and just to get out of the prison camp and make their way back north?
I was scared. I really was. And Larry Trimble, who in my opinion, I worship the guy. I tell you that right now, flat off. I just worship the guy. He says, if you feel that you're uncomfortable, he says, I can transfer you over to another team. And he says, but this is what we're going to do. We're going to train, because there is an enemy commander over that next hill training his team twice as hard to kill you. And boy, did we train. And he was not one of these individuals that stands, no. He's there in the mud with us. And we went through what we call instinctive shooting, which was, well, let me backtrack a little bit. First of all, we had to get rid of things that made noise, the sling. So we'd get this parachute cord and we would braid it and measure it so it felt comfortable, and then tie it off there on our Carr 15. Put it away, and we'd carry that all the time. If you look up, the weapon went up. You go to the left, the weapon went to the left. And you got to the point where you could look at a target and shoot and hit the target. Now, it may not be dead center, but you're going to hit the target. And that's how we trained. From shooting from the hip, the other hand, we'd move brush and what have you, or use it for the radio. And it was constant training, and we did immediate action drills. We started with the walkthrough, run. Then we would do it with weapons. Then we would do it with actual active shooting and so on and so forth. And to the point that where it was fast. I mean, and you know how it is. Repetition, till it becomes natural. And that is the key to survival, as you well know. You know, when you repeat an action as a team, it becomes instinctive and it becomes lethal. And Larry he became a Covey writer, forward air controller writer. And then Tony Bandiera took over, ran a couple of missions with Tony. Then he got medevaced. And then Phil Quinn took over. And I was the assistant team leader. And running recon, you basically have two team leaders. Both are capable of leading the team, but one has to take the title of team leader. And if we were going in the normal position, he would be up in front and I would be in the back. If all of a sudden we have to do a reverse action, then I'm the team leader and he's the assistant. And as an assistant, you have to read the combat. In the jungle, and you've done some jungle work, I'm sure.
Did a little jungle work, yep.
Yep, and you know that visibility is not all that great, especially if you're breaking trail. And you have to read it. The first two guys are engaged. And then you have to listen. Am I getting a lot of AK-47 fire, or am I getting a lot of friendly fire going out? So you have to make a decision to whether we do an immediate action drill or we do a flanking movement. And that has to be in a nanosecond. And you've been positions like that where instantaneously you know what to do just from the sound. And that is what Larry instilled in us at the very beginning, was that training of listen for the sound and identify the sound. And of course, the environment, the terrain, everything dictates what you're going to be doing. So I can't say you can do this, you're going to do that. No. Terrain. I'm speaking to the choir.
Yeah, situation, terrain, dictate is what we would always say.
The terrain dictates everything. You did a lot of urban combat, I think.
Yeah.
I've never have done that. But again, it's that training that you do, the hours that you put into it, with your team, how you respond to it. And that's how we worked.
Yeah. I want to ask you about Larry Trimble a little later, but I want to take you back a little bit. And for those listening, this is 1968, which
Correct.
You didn't know at the time was going to be the bloodiest year of the war.
Correct.
This is 1968. About mid-1968 you show up?
I show up in May of 68.
May of 68.
And to start 68 in SOG or CNC, January of 68, we lost a team. I'm not going to get into much detail because I want to respect the family. It was brutal. The team was captured. And they let one of the American men live to report back to headquarters what was waiting for them across the fence. But it was brutal. RT-ASP, March of 1968, was completely wiped out. RT Maine, where Fred Zabatowski, again, almost a total wipeout. RT Idaho in May of 1968, wiped out. Sidewinder, all casualties to the point where the team literally ceased to exist because the Americans had to be medevac to the States. And we had a lot of those where the teams were non-functional anymore. So it was bloody 68. And then, of course, August 23rd of 68 at FOB 4, which was the highest casualty in Special Forces history in a single engagement.
I'm going to ask you about that because I know you were involved, but before I get to that, because it happened not long after you arrive in country, just a couple months after
Right.
you get there. But I wanted you to tell me first, before we get there, which I think happened stateside, you run into a guy, Jerry Cropic, is that how you say it?
Jerry Cropic.
Cropic.
Well,
in the novel, it's Cropic, and in real life, I was going to ask you about that too.
In real life, is Jerry Cropic. Jerry Cropic.
I wanted to ask you about him and the Lodge Act. It's so interesting. German paratrooper, French Foreign Legion, 10th Special Forces Group was interested in a lot of those type of guys through the Lodge Act back then. But I would love you to tell me about him and the Lodge Act and why that was important to Special Forces. And I read it in here, and so there's a character in my book. I made him a FOB commander in my fiction, but
Right.
I used the background here that I got from you, and I morphed it with Larry Thorne as well, because I kind of morphed it and made a composite type character and threw in some fiction as well. But I initially was kind of it sparked my interest reading about him in your book.
Thank you so much. Larry Thorne, oh my God. The guy he earned the Mannerheim Cross twice, which is equivalent to the Medal of Honor for us. He performed an ambush where he killed over 300 Soviets when he was fighting with the Finns.
And the Winter War, or the Continuation War, one of those things, yes.
Winter War, yes. 1940, yes. Now that man was a badass. I mean, super duper badass. He fought for the Germans. He fought for us. Unfortunately, he was the first casualty from MACV-SOG on our first mission. We lost a great legend, I never met him, but I knew a lot of the guys that knew him. and had met him and worked with him. And he was a 10th group guy. In fact, when I was in training group, we had a Finnish colonel. His name was Aito Karavui. And he had the bluest eyes I've ever seen on anybody. I mean, they were just blue. They were just like, oh. And he was on the White Star Project in Laos in 61.
Early on.
It's early on. And he mentored Larry Thorne and was instrumental in getting him into Special Forces. And they were really going to fast track Larry to get his citizenship because we really, really needed him. During the Lodge Act, post-World War II, there were a lot of, and I think Special Forces was kind of like in the forefront of this, because we knew that we were going to be fighting the Soviets. So we were recruiting a lot of displaced personnel from Europe, the DPs. So under the Lodge Act was that you served in the military for a few years or whatever it was, and then you would get your citizenship. 10th Special Forces Group, 1952, 52, 53. And I may be off with the percentage number, but I would say pretty close to 80%, 85% of them were former DPs. At that time, they formed a separate unit, Operational Detachment Alpha. It was the Berlin Brigade, if you want to call it. Long hair, mustache, you name it, civilian clothes, a lot of the DPs there. And boy, they were good. A lot of the stuff that they did, we really, really can't talk about. They did some spectacular stuff. I'm going to go forward just a little bit.
All right, this is Jack Carr checking in from Park City, Utah. Hello, everybody out there at Sig Next. I wish I could be there with you. I was just finishing up my latest novel, Cry Havoc, which hits shelves on October 7th. And last year at Sig Next, I was so honored to be able to introduce the 40th anniversary edition of the P226 right here. And if you followed me for more than a day, then you know how fond I am of this pistol. I used it for my entire 20 years in the SEAL teams. It was by my side on every single deployment. Even when I had to put my M4 down, I always had my 226 Mark 25 variant sometimes right there at the ready. And this year, I am also honored once again to be able to introduce the next evolution of the P226, and that is this pistol right here. It is the P226X Legion. Oh, that feels good. Dare I say it might feel better than the original. It comes in both a full-size edition with a 4.4-inch barrel and a carry-size edition with a 3.8-inch barrel. Both sizes are available in double-action, single-action with the iconic P226 decocking lever. The new P226X Legion has a new X-Series alloy frame with an even more ergonomic design with a deep undercut below the trigger guard and an extended beaver tail with an enhanced grip angle for an even more balanced feel in your hand. Both sizes have a full-length dust cover and rail on the front for a classic modern look. One of the biggest additions to the new P226X Legion is the amazing trigger, which is now adjustable in all models, giving you a smooth, crisp, customizable feel. Both the full and carry size have the bull barrels, just like the legendary X5 editions, making them extremely accurate. All models are optics ready with a removable sight plate, which has a pro footprint. These two are fitted with SIG's Romeo X optics. The all-new P226X Legion series, the next chapter in the history of this incredible pistol. This pistol feels good. Still feels like it's an extension of my hand. And this right here, kapoo. This just might end up being the new carry. Yeah, I could do some good work with this. Love it. Yeah, I'll tell you, while you're thinking about that, I want to make sure that I let you know that I also had some guys speaking German in, I think I put like the East Berlin dialect or something in my book at Phu Bai, Vietnam, where my character walks by and he hears them speaking in German. So I put that in there. And then Det A comes in a little bit later. I don't want to give too much away about my latest book that comes out in October, but all of that started right here with your book and your descriptions.
But it was I know what it was. I was part of the demonstration team, the Gabriel team. And they said, hey, John Wayne is doing a movie, Green Beret movie down there. It says, you guys, the demonstration team, we're going to go down there and do your little thing. And if you remember in the movie, the Green Berets, they have a special forces detachment there, and they all do the different languages. That team. And boy, we were going like, oh my God, this is it. Hollywood, here we come. And then all of a sudden they said, nope, you guys can't go. Well, why not? It says, because we can't have Vishnevsky, Dvorjanik, and they just went down the list of, you guys can't go because you guys were in Det A. And we can't have your faces up there. So the guys from 7th Group got the tap on the shoulder and they went down there.
Interesting.
But it was interesting. But for a moment there,
you're close. It was close, so close.
And we came that close.
I actually put a little joke about that in the book as well, about SEALs and their books. And I have someone saying, a SEAL would never write a book like you guys. You guys have the Robin Moore thing. They're filming the John Wayne movie. We would never do that. And of course now, we're taking some lessons, but a lot of people, forget that Army Special Forces kind of kicked that sort of thing off back in the day.
They did. And the thing about it was, in the book, and the Green Berets, there is a captain there that the role model was Larry Thorne.
Wow. That is pretty cool.
And I had a chance to talk with Robin Moore. 2001 at the Special Forces Convention in Houston. And we were talking about that. And great guy, super guy. Very humble guy and everything. And of course, we knew a lot of guys.
Yeah. Sure. I have my first edition in the house over there. But how about Jerry Kopreki? That's what he's in the novel.
Cropic in the novel, but Cropic in real life.
Yeah. He passed on some lessons. Didn't he pass on some lessons to you before you shipped out? Oh,
good Lord. Let me go back to Jerry. Believe it or not, he was in Poland going through the Polish West Point at the time during World War II when it first started out. He later became a German paratrooper, was wounded. I was there in Normandy when the Americans came in, became a border guard on the Czechoslovakian border, defected, joined the French Foreign Legion, was wounded there again, spent 6 months in a Viet Minh concentration camp, went back to Algeria, fought the Algerians, his tour with the French Foreign Legion over, went back to Germany. And what he tells me is that Cropic was short, but like a fire hydrant. I mean, the man had no neck. I mean, he was just powerful, that type of build.
Sure.
And he said a little short guy beat the crap out of him. He says the guy was skinny too. He says, I want to find out what unit you were in. He says, I want to be in that unit. Anybody that can beat me, I want to be in that unit. So he ended up in Special Forces. And in the book, Purvis, volunteers for Ranger School. Now, this is me personally. This is my own deal. I did volunteer for Ranger School, and I got my orders to Vietnam. Overseas orders supersede training, so I ended up not going to Ranger School. But I went to see Cropic, and I said, Cropic, going to Vietnam. He says, yeah, that's good. He says, what's it like? He says, we go sandbox. So at that time, there was a big, huge table full of sand. Get the little Mattel toys. And he says, do ambush. So I go buy the book. I do everything and everything else. And I stand back, and I am proud. I mean, there is no way that Jerry can criticize that. He looks at it, smiles. And I'm going, oh my God, I don't like that smile. Hits me on top of the head. He says, you die. What do you mean I die? And I tell him everything that I did. He says, you see Hill right here? He says, yeah. You did not put a man on top of Hill. That man can see reaction unit that comes, you die. Do again. So he rearranges everything. So I do everything, put my little man on top of the hill. He looks at it and he smiles. You die. I put the man on top of the, You see right here? There's a blind spot right here on the turn. You did not put the man there. Reaction team can get on top of you. You die. Do again. I died 7 times. Until I finally got it right. A couple of weeks later, we went on a FTX, field training exercise. And we're up there in, I think it was Uwharrie National Forest. And he comes up behind me and he puts his hand on my shoulder. What you see? And I almost died. Because if I came up with the wrong answer, he was going to beat the crap out of me. So I'm a wag, wild ass guess. Ambush? Yeah, ambush. Whew, I lived that one. Okay. We're machine gun. Oh, machine. Oh, over there. He says, good. Why there? It's field of fire and everything else. I explain it, and he goes, where do you hide? Oh, right here. There's a depression. Ah, true. You could put mines, booby traps there. How you attack? There's a blind spot right over here. Good. So we go another 50, 75 yards. Puts his hand on my shoulder again. What'd you see? Now I know. Ambush. We're machine gun over there. Do the whole routine. Then I go about 100 yards. Ambush. Machine gun over there. And that was my training. Martin Urich, he was a tank commander in the Battle of Kursk, the largest tank battle in the world. That was another teacher. Tibor Bierbaum, he was a Hungarian freedom fighter. Leslie Becci, another freedom fighter, Hungarian freedom fighter. Karl Vojanik, Czechoslovakian. I mean, these were my mentors. Oh. And Jerry had the humor of a pit bull. And these were my mentors, and they pushed and they pushed and they pushed until they were satisfied. Wow. Not when I was satisfied, because they were satisfied. And they would push me to where I was physically beat. I mean, just beat. And then they wanted me to make critical decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when we would go on these FTXs, middle of the night, here you are, sound asleep, they start firing weapons and everything else. And what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And those were my mentors. And because of them, you and I are having this wonderful conversation.
Amazing.
And I owe it to them.
Yeah.
And I met Jerry later in Vietnam. and we were at the NCO club. And that was when I felt that I had earned the right to sit at his table. Because all the time when I was at Fort Bragg, yes, we would sit at the table, but I felt inadequate. I hadn't earned it yet. I hadn't earned my beret. It's like when, yes, they pinned the trident on you when you go through all the training and everything else, but you feel like I haven't earned it yet. You know that feeling?
Oh yeah.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I know you do. It's the same thing with me when I had the beret on and everything else, but I had not earned it yet. And so that's when I felt that I had earned it.
Wow. And was he really at Dien Bien Phu, or was that for the fictionalized for the book?
No, he was really in Dien Bien Phu, yes.
Jeez. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, he was really in Dien Bien Phu. We had June of 67. I had just gotten into Charlie Company of the 6th. And Standish, Sergeant Major Standish, it says, okay, gentlemen, today marks June 6th. This is all you veterans from June 6th, from D-Day. Oh, please, we're going to have a little meeting in back of the formation. Group, Tench Hut, dismiss. So we have all these guys going to the back of the formation. And here goes Jerry. There was a couple of other German guys. He says, no, on our group, on our side. But they said, no, come on over. So it was really great that they accepted him over there.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. We had guys that jumped on D-Day and on Market Guard.
Wow.
Jeez. It was amazing. I mean, I believe those of us that trained in the 1960s were blessed, truly blessed, because we stood on those shoulders. We stood on some outstanding shoulders. I mean, these guys were, pillars of strength, of wisdom, courage. And we had our generation that was just starting to gain our battle streamers and earn our spurs in the battlefields of Vietnam. We were just getting there.
Yeah. Was there anything you remember from training or from somebody, maybe not the tactical level, but maybe something more of a life lesson? Did someone pass on anything that you took to Vietnam with you that was at the forefront of your mind when you first land? And do you land in Saigon and then hop up to Da Nang, or?
No, I landed in Cam Ranh Bay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Landed in Cam Ranh Bay, and then we took a little short hop in a Caribou to Nha Trang, and went to the combat orientation course. And that was it. In fact, speaking of books and scripts, I've actually written, but we'll talk about this later on.
It's one of my questions.
Okay. I've written a script on surrender not an option, but we'll talk that a little bit later on.
Yeah. Did anybody pass anything to you about just something that you were thinking about when you landed over there? What are your thoughts when you first land in Vietnam?
Seek out the most experienced men you could find, regardless of rank. And speaking regardless of rank, we would get first lieutenants up at FOB 4. Now, as you well know, sometimes, you get that little gold bar there, or silver bar, actually, first lieutenant. They want to run recon. They've got the Ranger tab on, and they're, all sorts of stuff. And Colonel Warren would say, listen to me, Lieutenant. You're going to be assigned to a team. And your team leader is going to be an E5. He is the team leader. You are the assistant. Let me repeat that again. He is the team leader. His word is law. You're the assistant. You are to learn everything from him so that way you can become a team leader. And it says, and when the team goes on sandbag detail, the whole team, Lieutenant, is on sandbag detail. These are mercenaries. You have to earn their trust. And it didn't take long for them to, to learn.
Yeah. You mentioned Colonel Warren. So Jack Warren, I understand he was quite the character. What was he part of your in-brief over there? What was your first experience running with him?
I met him later on.
Okay.
I have to tell you a story about Jack here. He liked Jack Daniels. I'll just let it go at that. And he came in one time and he saw Eskimo Nelson. And for the life of me, Eskimo Nelson was not an Eskimo. But he, again, do you know how you get these taglines?
Oh, yeah, it happens. It's the military.
And so Eskimo Nelson was a big guy, probably about 6 foot, 5'11" or something like that. He comes up to me and says, Eskimo, let's go and arm wrestle. He says, Colonel, you don't want to do that. Colonel Warren on a good day was maybe 5'6", maybe 5'7" on a good day. Oh, no, come on. So we're going to arm wrestle. And right then and there, he reaches over there and punches Eskimo Nelson. He says, Colonel, you shouldn't have done that. Come on. Let's go ahead. And all of a sudden, he reaches over, hits him again. Eskimo Nelson just belts him one and knocks him out. And so we get the Jeep and we take him back to his barracks and we laid him out there. Eskimo Nelson is going, oh my God, I'm going to go to Leavenworth. Jeez, I'm going to go to Leavenworth. I better start packing right now because I'm going to go to Leavenworth. And we're all being very, how shall we say, supportive of him, So the next morning shows up. We're in formation. Colonel drives up. Sergeant Major, hey, Eskimo, how are you doing? And not a word was said.
Amazing. Did he walk around in the bathrobe with his green beret and shower shoes on or something like that?
Yeah.
I read that somewhere.
We had some characters there. I mean, we had some characters. One guy came in one time, goes to the club. He says, I want a case of bourbon. What do you need a case of? I says, I need a case of bourbon. He leaves. 4 hours later, he comes back and in comes a lowboy with a tank or some sort of a contraption there. And he's got a minigun on it. And so they bury it at the southeast corner of the camp. As long as you have that battery there, you could operate that minigun. So that was part of our camp defense.
Good trade.
A good trade.
I love it. The Scrounger.
We had a lot of them there too.
That's so fantastic. So you get to Da Nang. You are in the communications shack trying to find your replacement. And I think August 23rd takes place before you even get to your team. And I want to ask you about that for those that don't know, because the result is 16 Americans dead, like 40 indige, almost 80
Right.
or more wounded. So I want to ask you about that night and actually the 2 days leading up, a couple of days leading up to it. I believe on the 19th and the 20th, you're in
19th,
there,
yes.
and there's a Zulu message comes in, and you take it, I think, to Colonel Warren. Next day,
Correct.
something else comes in. What was going on with that flash message traffic? What is the flash message traffic, first off, and what were those that were coming in?
As an urgent message, in other words, it is something that needs immediate attention, and normally it is given to the senior commanding officer. So whoever is the senior commanding officer, such as the camp commander or whoever, he gets that message immediately. I received the message sometime around 10:45, somewhere in that time period, time-stamped it, told the radio operator to take my post, and I ran over to the colonel's room, knocked on the door, and he answered it butt naked, had a 45 in his hand, handed it to him. He looked at it, and he says, "I'll get to it." So I go back to my position, and he showed up a little bit before midnight. Now, what happened, I don't know, because I left at midnight. My switch was, my term was noon to midnight, 12-hour shift. And the next night, about the same time period, Master Sergeant Danny West was there at the cubicle with me. And he said, "I'll take it to the colonel." Now, we had heard through what was going on that the 3rd Marine Amtrak was playing hide and seek with a North Vietnamese regiment about 1.5 miles, 2 miles south of Marble Mountain. And they could never stand there and fight. They would engage and the North Vietnamese would run, which is rather unusual. We had agents, or the North Vietnamese had agents inside the camp. We did not know that. In fact, one of them was the Vietnamese cook. On the 22nd, Thursday the 22nd, Bill Barkley got the message, and I had left my cubicle to go back to the S2 shop, and he didn't see me there. So he took it to the colonel. The colonel said Major Moore has it, will take care of it. So he comes back, gives the message to Major Moore, and Major Moore says, "Listen to me, private." He had a very condescending tone. And whenever he would call you like sergeant, it was always like sergeant, that kind of a stuff. He was not well liked by the staff there. And he says, "Listen, private, the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese do not have a navy. Therefore, an amphibious attack is not going to happen. And to the south, we have Marble Mountain, and we have the 3rd Marine Amtrak. On the west side, we have the garbage dump. And on the north side, we have all of these supply depots. We have the Marine Air Base, and we have Charlie 1, which is the other Special Forces camp. So how are they going to attack? Private." Says, "Well, I don't know." He says, "That's it. Get back to your post." Prior to that, at lunchtime, supper time, I had seen Talmadge Alphen and Bobby Wysocka and Captain Lamb. Captain Lamb sat across from me. Talmadge Alphen had said, "Hey, you want to come over and we watch the movie?" They showed the movie, and then later on they would, and this was at the old talk. I was in the new talk. And I said, "Sure." So at midnight, I got off, went to the urinal, and it felt like if someone sucked all the energy out of me. And I said, you know what? I'll see him tomorrow morning, and I'll see the movie tomorrow night. The barracks that I'd lived in at the time was also part of the transient barracks. So my room, we had extra beds, and transient people would come in and sleep. And that, then the 23rd, there was going to be a promotion board. So we had a lot of senior NCOs and NCOs coming in for the promotion board. The evening of the 22nd, there was an officer staff meeting. So a lot of the senior officers and other staff officers left. Some of them stayed there. Larry Trimble on Wednesday with RT Radler had gone up to the top of Marble Mountain as a listening post. Now, Marble Mountain was about 250, 300 foot rock that literally just came. There was no slope or anything. Just came out of the sand. And did a radio check on Little Marble. Another little peak there was a Marine outpost. Sometime around between 2 and 2:30, the Marine outpost received a blast. That was the beginning. And we had 164 bad guys inside the camp. We did not know that until later. They were throwing satchel charges everywhere, grenades. There was 2 mortars by Marble Mountain where Larry was, and they were shooting over Marble Mountain and hitting the camp. They were traversing left and right, up and down. There was no pattern to it. Now, to get down to the mortar pit where the NVA were, it was a little single pathway. So Larry worked his way down there and destroyed the mortars there. Shortly after that, there was a ground assault, and he's the only one there. So Larry, by himself, takes on the ground assault. He pulls back. There's a ground assault on the other side. And again, because of the terrain features, he's there by himself. Cecil Ames is on the radio. All hell breaks loose up there. According to after-action reports, 37 North Vietnamese / Viet Cong attacked Marble Mountain. They attacked it at least 2 to 3, maybe 4 ground assaults. Larry saved the camp. Had the North Vietnamese taken control of the high ground, I would not be here today. Then we go down to the camp itself. They throw a grenade. I wake up with muffled noises. I look out the door, and a homemade grenade rolls down the hallway. Basically, it's a longhouse with a corridor in the center and rooms, 5 rooms on either side. So there's 10 rooms. I yelled for grenade. I said grenade. And a homemade grenade has a fuse from 0 to 20 seconds, thereabouts. Lieutenant Donald Dahl says, "Where in the hell is the freaking grenade?" So, Special Forces, you're not exactly bright. I never said we were smart. So we go out to the door, and the damn thing goes off. Now, the way we were standing, I believe that he got the brunt of the shrapnel. I just got a little bit, what I would call a John Kerry wound, just minor hits, and that was it. And then a big explosion. And that's when Lieutenant Potter got killed. We did not know it at the time. It's dark. We called for everybody's okay. Lieutenant Dahl says, hey, the son of a bitch is going down the hallway. Cover me. So he's running down the hallway. And Donald Dahl is a wrestler, was a collegiate wrestler. No neck. They called him no neck. He's running down the hall barefooted with a Swedish K. He runs into Tom Pardee. Tom Pardee goes out the door and makes a left. Donald Dahl makes a right and shoots the Viet Cong or the NVA that has his finger on the satchel charge. The reason I know that was because the next morning I saw it. I saw him. I saw the dead body. And a nanosecond later, he gets hit. He calls out that he's wounded. I rush out. I'm trying to drag him. And I'm bare-chested, and I could feel, and I'm sure you've had this feeling before, where people are trying to shoot at you, and you can feel the air of the bullet as it goes right by your bare torso. Of course, I had a bare torso. And they're shooting at him at the ground because I can see the ground explode next to him as I'm dragging him. Take him to the second room, and I call for a medic. Out of nowhere, a medic appears. I go across, and to this day, I still don't know who that medic is. I really don't know. I go across to where that front room is, where Pardee was, and Captain Lamb shows up. And thank God I had seen him earlier, because I almost shot him. And there's explosions going on everywhere. There's that mortar fire. That is just, it's raining mortars, 82 millimeter mortars. And I go back, I said, cover me. No, he asked me, he says, where's our defensive position? I said, on the north side. I said, I wouldn't advise going out there. We're not going to make it. I says, cover me. I'm going to check on the lieutenant. Right about that time, Melville Westerfield shows up. It's funny how you remember things like that. His hair is combed, in full uniform, runs to his door, to his room, picks up his gear, runs out the door. And this is something that you and I, and we try to explain it, and it's hard to explain. And perhaps you can help me on this. It's a feeling, and you don't know if you're hearing it. Something is not right, but you sense someone or something is approaching you. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
And yet you can't see them, but you know that he's there.
Oh, yeah. That's that sixth sense. That's why we're here today.
Right. It's that sixth sense. And it's dark. And all of a sudden, I see a silhouette in the door. It's a dark silhouette. And I don't know if it's one of our guys or what. And there's an explosion on the east door. It lights him up. And he's a bad guy. He's got tan shorts on. He's got a belt across his chest. He's got an AK-47. And that light exposes both of us. Now, what I think happened is, as you know, when someone takes a flash, and afterwards you get that little blinky stuff in your eyes, you know, you can't see stuff. And I think that's what happened, because when he shot blind. And I felt that bullet go right by my head. I mean, right by my ear. two, bang, bang, bang. And I went bang, bang, two. And I hear this thump where he fell. Captain Lamb says, are you okay? And I said, yes, I am. And heard a voice said, hey, come on out. And we start lifting up Lieutenant Dahl. And the medic says, what the hell is on your shoulder? He says, what do you mean? And he drops the lieutenant and he goes, what is this? I had wood splinters on my shoulder. I did not know that. I did not know that I had wood splinters on my shoulder. So he starts checking me all over, starts yanking them out. And he says, get to the dispensary afterwards. I said, fine. So we go down the hallway. Captain Lamb is covering us. And there's a fire in my room. Turns out to be my duffel bag, but I didn't know that at the time. And outside is a Jeep with Sergeant Scully. He's a medic. And Pat Watkins throws Hoffman on top of the Jeep. And he says, Hoffman, so help me God, if you die on me, I'm going to kill you. I thought that was logical. So Lieutenant sits in the front seat. John Dodd is in the back seat. There's another guy in the back seat. Scully says, hey, you're wounded. Get to the dispensary. Follow me. So there's a Hispanic looking guy. He's also wounded. So we go running over to the dispensary. So when we get there, help a couple of guys off the Jeep, go in, and there's a guy on the floor with a big hole on his right side. He's Vietnamese. And you know how you get tunnel vision? I mean, there were people there, yeah. I mean, you could have been standing right next to me and I wouldn't have seen you. But all I see is this guy with the big hole in his side. And I look at myself, I don't need to be here. So the Hispanic guy and I, we leave. And we're heading back. And here's some noise, and it's a Jeep. And to this day, I don't know if it's the same Jeep or two Jeeps, but they go like that, like that, and then like that. And I see the muzzle flashes shooting at the Jeep. So I engage the muzzle flashes. And when I do that, then I see the ground around me erupt. And I get on the ground and I look up, and in the dying flare, I see this guy falling off the water tower. Years later, I come across Charlie the Tuna Pfeiffer, and I tell him the story. He's the guy that shot the guy in the water tower. Jeez. He did not know that it was me, the other end of that.
Yeah.
And so Colonel Smith sees me. He says, hey, there's a machine gun over here, engage. So I did engagement. Colonel Warren shows up. He says, your position is by the talk. So I went back to the talk. And by that time, the mortar fire had stopped temporarily. And Sinkowicz had killed 2 Viet Cong. We go over to the east side of the camp. Travis Mills gets shot 5 times. Crabb gets shot in the leg, femoral wound. He's bleeding out. Blatherwick commandeers a Jeep, picks up Crabb, takes him to the dispensary, comes back. The Jeep is all shot up, picks up Travis Mills, takes him to the dispensary. They do a temporary patch. By that time, Scully has been wounded really bad. Crabb is in serious condition. A couple of others are in serious condition. And they've got to go to the dispensary. Big time, or else they're going to die. So they have this box ambulance. Are you familiar with the kind of World War II box ambulance? And so they load them up and says, well, we need a door gunner. So who do they pick as the door gunner? Travis Mills, the guy that's been shot 5 times. And they have to fight their way out of the camp that's under fire. Now, he says that they shot at a few bullets at the ambulance. Well, I had a chance to see that ambulance in the daytime. It was more than just a few bullets. Because when he left, he was firing so they were seriously engaging him. Long story short, he gets medevac to the USS Sanctuary, which is the naval hospital ship, spends 31 days there, returns back to camp, is there about a week and a half, but he's on light duty, and he wants to go back to run recon. So they said, no, you're going to be the officer in charge of the 1-0 school at Longtan. Because we were losing a lot of men in 68. Again, we mentioned earlier. So we had to come up with a protocol. And because of Travis Mills and his staff, he saved a lot of men. A lot of men. In fact, the reconnaissance book that was published later, 90% of it was Travis Mills stuff. And so, yeah, Travis, and I hope you do a podcast with him. When he went through OCS, he broke one of his legs saving a guy. So he was recycled and got recycled back to where he left off for that. He wanted to go to jump school, but he had a profile because of a broken leg. So he took the profile out and went to jump school.
Yes, I've heard of people doing things like this.
I wonder, do you know anybody like that?
I know a couple guys.
Yeah.
But now they've taken all the fun out of it. Now they've made it, everything's electronic. So you have to be like a hacker. You have to know somebody that can do that sort of thing now. You can't just do it on your own as you transport your file between duty stations or something.
Right. So now Travis goes to Vietnam. He's on the Hatchet Force. He ends up being an assistant team leader on RT Python, runs a couple of missions. He now becomes a team leader on RT Coral. Goes on a mission, gets extracted on what they call a McGuire rig, which is basically a horse collar kind of a rig. And as you well know, when a helicopter is under fire, they do not go straight up. They go that way.
Dragging him through the jungle.
And he got dragged through the trees. As the helicopter is climbing to altitude, now mind you're 100 feet below the helicopter, the Vietnamese guy on his team, one of the indigenous, falls out of the collar. Travis grabs a hold of it. Now, mind you, you're now at about 1,000, 1,500 feet above ground. The helicopter's going about 70, 80 miles an hour, which means there's a 70, 80 mile an hour wind. And as you well know, even at 2,000 feet, it's cold up there.
Mm-hmm.
And since we're not aerodynamic, he's spinning.
Oh.
And he's holding on to this guy that probably weighs 105 pounds, but he's got a 30-pound rucksack on.
Mm-hmm.
For a 15-minute flight to where they can land in the middle of a river where there's a sandbar. They get him into the helicopter and so on and so forth. And that is Travis Mills.
Wow. It's amazing. I've heard a few stories of guys getting drugged through the trees like that, coming out on strings. And so I Made it into the novel, so it's in my
my
book. So
that is no fun at all.
Amazing. Yeah, you describe it in here. Maybe it was something else I saw that you wrote or talked about, but a friend of yours that got dragged through the trees, and then he comes back and he's just all black and blue and all just beat up. And
that is Tony Bandiera.
Okay.
On RT-ASP. When I first met him, they had just come back from a trip down in Cambodia, and they got dragged through the trees. So when I first met him, he's in bed, and he's got 2 black eyes, he's got a broken nose, and he's got a rope burn across his neck, and he had black and blue marks all over his body. I mean, it was like, to get him out of bed, it was like, okay, 1, 2, 3, there we go.
Yeah. Going back to the 23rd, though, you fight all through that cycle of darkness. So it starts, you said, about 2 a.m. Do you remember how they initiated it? Did they initiate it with a mortar, or was it with people inside the camp already with a satchel charge? Combination of both, because at that wins the initial attack was removing the Marine base Alpha 6. That started the mortar fire. That started the satchel charges, the grenades, and everything else. And they were hitting the recon area, the hatchet force area, the administrative area. Now, what happened there, and I don't know if you know this, as you all know, you always have a schematic of your objective. They had the schematic of the camp. However, it was backwards. So when they attacked the senior barracks, the senior NCO barracks, they thought that they were attacking the senior officer barracks. So when they threw the satchel charge in there, it killed a lot of the senior NCOs. Wow. And not the senior officers. Wow. And that was the barracks that was right next to us, to me, I should say. Wow. And so you fight through to the morning, and do you immediately know how bad this is?
Yes.
Or when the sun rises and you can actually see?
When the sun rises. Yeah. Because you could hear firefights on the east side of the camp.
Yeah.
And explosions and everything else. There were some explosions. Oh, when the propane gas blew up there at the S4.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God. We didn't know what happened. Where I was, we heard it. And we thought it was a 122 millimeter rocket that had come in. And that scared the pee out of us. And then we had some secondary explosions from other cylinders and what have you. And then we had some ammunition cook-offs. And
these are entire buildings. These are entire buildings that are exploding.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, made out of plywood, but yeah. So yeah, that was there was a lot of stuff that we didn't know, again, because of distance, within the camp. What was happening on the east side, the west side, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. So we did not know. But it wasn't until the daytime that we finally got out and we started seeing the bodies, both American and enemy bodies, and the unexploded ordnance.
Oh.
There was a lot of unexploded ordnance there.
Really? What types?
82 millimeter mortar.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah. And I remember going to breakfast, and I was walking toward to the mess hall, and of course the old talk where we lost 3 Americans, and I could see their bodies there. Didn't recognize them because they had been burnt, so I didn't know who they were. The talk was still burning. smoke and flames and everything else. In their haste, well, let me backtrack. By body count, there were 41 bad guys that we killed by body count. However, there were 7 bodies that we recuperated later by the south fence. Basically, they just threw sand, beach sand on it. And in the tropic heat, these bodies started to percolate. And the smell of death just permeated the entire camp. And it took a while, even though the bodies had been recovered and everything else, but it took a while for that smell to go away. And I'm sure that you've experienced that. It's something that you just never forget. It's just there. And then, according to the Marines, they found 17 freshly dug graves by the village. Because we found blood trails, drag marks, and everything else going out through that hole there on the south side. And then, of course, the bodies from the guys that Larry killed up on the mountain.
Yeah. What weapon did you grab that night?
So, I had not been issued my M16 yet. I had an M2 carbine.
Wow.
World War II carbine.
Yeah.
With the selector switch on it.
Oh yeah. Wow. And no pistol? You just have pants on?
I did not have a pistol.
Do you at least have boots on, or are you in flip-flops?
I had my boots on. I had my boots, my pants, and my web gear, and my weapon, and that was it.
Wow. That's incredible. And that's 16 Americans killed. Were they all Green Berets, or were there?
Oh yeah, they were all Green Berets. Yes.
So 16 Green Berets,
Good.
Which is still the
highest. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's just like when you all lost. Yeah. SEAL Team 6 in that Chinook.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. Yeah. And it hurts. It really hurts. You know that.
And and you have your Indage too. It's not just American. These guys are your teammates. So people might not realize is that
right.
These Indage, when you mentioned the team's makeup of 2 to 3 Americans and another 4 to 6 to 8 Indage going out with you, depending on the team. Hatchet forces are larger, but those are your teammates.
Right, and we had 78 wounded. We had over 40.
You're one of them.
Yeah, and so we had 78 wounded, and the thing about it is, there was a captain, a redheaded captain, after the battle came over, and he looked at me and he says, "Get your butt over to the dispensary." So I went back to the dispensary, and by that time, in the daytime, there were wounded everywhere. Everywhere. And I'm looking at my little dinky little scratches that I've got on me, and I go, nah. I'll be embarrassed. I really would be. Just, take care of this. I'm going, as I'm walking out of there was a sergeant says, "Hey, grab that 3/4 over here, and we're going to load you up, and you're going to take some guys over to Naval Hospital." I said, "Okay, fine." So I get the 3/4, drive it over to the Naval Hospital there in Da Nang, which is about 4 miles, 4.5 miles, whatever it was. So I get there, and there's a corpsman, and he goes, "Hey, you're hurt." I know it's just some small stuff. No, tell me. So he's the one that cleaned me up.
No kidding.
Yeah, he's the guy that cleaned me up.
Navy corpsman. Oh.
Yeah, Navy corpsman cleaned me up, and so then I went back to the camp, and put on a shirt, and that was it. So I never, how should we say, one of those things,
Never did the paperwork.
Never did the paperwork on it.
Yeah. And did you know right away that there was something called the NVA 22nd Sapper Battalion, or did that
Not
come
at
later?
that time.
Okay.
No. It wasn't until later that we found out.
Yeah.
In fact, they were part of a larger unit. It was a regiment, and there was a SON battalion. Well, that hit us, and they were specifically trained to hit us. And there was a Navy component to that, of what would be your frogman type, that were going to liberate the prison camp that was right next to us.
I was going to ask you about that. So was this to keep you from responding, or was this a diversion, or was this
We think it was a diversion because there was another unit that the Marines had a firefight with on the road, not too far from the prison camp. So, but by that time, there was a lot of activity. The 3rd Amtrak got involved in a unit. I don't know the size, that was coming in from the south. So there was a lot of activity that night. Yeah.
And they were unsuccessful. Is that right?
Unsuccessful. They were unsuccessful.
Okay. And so what happened to that main element that was going to free the prisoners in the camp?
They were killed. They were killed. There was the Mike force from Charlie 1 came down beach and intercepted them. And Jeffrey Fullen, that was in Travis Mills' Hooch, was on the radio and was talking to a Cobra, and they directed hits there.
That's right. I remember that now. Yeah. What lessons did you take on from that night? Did you internalize lessons then, or did you look back on it years later, or were there things that you took right away, like ammunition, or having grenades nearby, or having a light, or were there things like that you took away from that night, or that your group took away?
Because it was individual fighting.
Yeah.
A lot of it was individual fighting, and maybe 2 or 3 guys together instead of a team. Because they hit us before and besides, you go to your appointed post to deal with an external attack. You see, these guys were already inside.
Right.
So we were fighting from outside our hooches and in places like that. So it was a different type of fighting. And it was scary because I was anyway, very afraid of friendly fire.
Right.
I was afraid of friendly fire. And so was everybody else. And we were hesitant in shooting at movements. It would see movement. And of course, we don't have nods, and we don't have that kind of stuff. That was not invented yet. Yeah. So we would see movement. Geez, who was that?
Right.
God, I don't know. Don't shoot. Don't shoot. So a lot of that was, we have to identify.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of uncertainty. Later on, when we were in the bush, then of course that's a different story. Now we're in their backyard. We know they're the bad guys. And I've mentioned it before, the deadliest guy in the bush out there was your tracker. They normally worked in pairs. One would go and tell the employers that, hey, there's an American team here. The other guys would follow us and then locate us. And then they would bring in the guys. And these guys were good. I mean, good. And you have to respect them. You know how you respect the enemy? You go, man, that guy is good. You have to You go, I wish that guy was on our team. You know, that kind of a stuff. And I mean, I remember on one occasion, because I was a tail gunner, I knew he was back there. I knew it. I could sense him. I just couldn't see him. Mm. And I tried every trick in the book to bring him out, and he wouldn't bite. You know, he wouldn't bite. And what saved us was, in a sense, was that we got hit from the front. And then we, got out of there. But, oh God, he was good. And I don't know who he was or anything like that, but yeah.
Well, I want to ask you about some of those, but how long after the 23rd do you stay in Da Nang in the doing the communications job before you get that replacement and off you go?
Oh, because we were getting replacements then?
Uh-huh. Got your replacement.
Oh, yes. Fresh meat. Yes, sir.
So off you go.
So off I go. You are now going to be in the message center. But you're going to be in the message center. I outrank you. I'm an E5 and you're an E4, so you're now going to be in the message center.
And is this when you do your first mission as a strap hanger with Hoot Gibson?
Yeah.
The capture mission that goes a little awry?
Yeah, it goes, oh my God, it went belly up.
And so he doesn't have, are you the third American on that team as a strap hanger?
I'm the strap hanger, yeah. Okay. I'm the strap hanger.
So you're going out. And this is your first mission with...
my first mission, yeah.
Okay, with RT-ASP?
No, Anaconda.
Okay, so you're a strap hanger with them. You're not yet. Yeah. So, okay, gotcha. So you're going out with Hoot Gibson. You're the third guy, and you go out on your first mission.
Yeah.
Where do you go? What border do you cross? And are you aware that it's a POW or a prisoner?
Yeah, we was aware it was a POW. What it was, it was a POW snatch, and it was a stay behind. It was a stay behind POW snatch. So we went in there, made some noise, came back. Hoot, myself, and one of the Indians stayed. The interpreter stayed with us. So everybody took off. So the idea was that we were going to do a quick snatch and grab, and it just went wrong, mainly because he did not identify the guy that we were going to snatch.
So you shot him.
Yeah. Well, we all shot him.
Yeah, you all shot him from what I read, yeah.
Yeah.
So the prisoner is now deceased.
The prisoner is now deceased.
And now the jungle lights up at this point? Is this...
And the jungle lights up at that moment in time, and so we have to make a big DD Mal over to the LZ, and they pick us up, and off we go.
How did they pick you up on that one?
He landed. It was one of those little...
How far do you have to fall back in something like that? Was the helo close by?
The helo was close by. We had already called them up and said, hey, excuse me, we've got people. We've got people coming down the trail, so they were already coming in, and so it was a run. I mean, it was a big run, and I don't know if they were orbiting or what, but we got to the LZ, and I'm saying less than 5 minutes, they came over the tree line, picked us up.
Wow.
And I mean, it was a Huey.
Yeah.
And I mean, he just skirted. I mean, he was kind of like right there, and we just jumped on and off we went.
Wow. And is this the one where you hear the talking sticks? Is this mission, or is that other mission?
So that's later. Talking sticks is the kind of like the the southeast version of the jungle drums in Africa.
Okay. And
basically what they do is that they try to channel you. I don't know what you were in Afghanistan and then both in Iraq, right?
That's right.
But they will try to force you to go a particular way. Mm. And you'd have talking sticks on your right, to your back, to your left, which means that they want you to force you to go in this one particular, and that's going to be an ambush.
Huh.
So you have to make up your mind real quick, excuse me, which one of these talking sticks you're going to attack. I mean, you have got to go on the offensive really, really quick, because you know they're scenting that trail with cheese. And so, yeah, you have to be very, very careful. They'll do the same thing with single shots. Pow, pow. Okay. And so they'll want to challenge, just channel you into a particular area.
Yeah. Wow. So that first one you go on with Hoot Gibson, is that into Laos?
Yeah, it was always Laos. Yeah.
Laos. And then after that, then you get your team, you get RT-ASP? It
was always Laos. Always
okay.
Laos. I never made Cambodia. Never did Cambodia.
Okay.
Cambodia.
So you have in RT-ASP, you have the North Vietnamese defectors or former prisoners. They're taking you into Laos.
Yeah.
Or you're going into Laos with them.
And basically, as Americans, we were there for them to do their thing, to see if we could do a snatch and grab and what have you, because they speak Vietnamese with a North Vietnamese accent. You know? And so we were never successful. To grab came close, but never successful.
I heard there were some incentives to grab prisoners. You get a Seiko watch for the Indige, and like $100 for you guys, and a couple of days of R&R in Thailand or
R&R. They're at Sun Moon Lake in Taipei. Yes.
Oh, Taipei. Yeah. Okay. I've heard from some people they got to go to Thailand, some people to Taiwan. But
yeah, so it was Taiwan. Yeah. Well, yeah, Taiwan, Taipei. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So what are you running with at this point when you get to RT-ASP?
Still at that time, because Larry ran, excuse me, 2 or 3 missions with Larry, a couple of missions with Tony, and then the majority of them with Phil Quinn. And when I was running with Tony, I was the 1-2, technically the radio operator.
Okay.
And Phil Quinn was the 1-1. And when I ran with Larry, because we had 4 on the team, then we would go in heavy. But he was going to leave shortly, so we only ran 1 or 2 missions with him. And then Tony took over. Then he got medevaced. And we were doing a piggyback. And we went to the first target area. Did not look good. Turned out to be the first target that we went to was actually the secondary target. We did not know that. So we went down to the secondary target, which was really the primary target. And the first Jolly Green landed, which is a big no-no. As the first Jolly Green landed, enemy troops started to get there, and Covey was signaling the A1s to stop dropping bombs.
Sky Raider.
Jolly leaves. Tony realizes that Quinn is down there without a radio. Quinn doesn't have a radio.
Because there's only 1 radio per team, is that right?
That's right. Yeah. The team leader has it. So Tony tells me, he says, "Don't come after me." Direct order. And he jumps. All right. Helicopter's hovering, he jumps. So I make my way up there and I look out. I'm looking at the grass, elephant grass, and I don't see him. The helicopter moves a little bit, and there's Tony laid out. And I'm going, oh my God, he's been shot. He's dead. So I jump
Oh,
and I end up twisting my ankle
because that elephant grass can be pretty tall.
because I landed. Yeah. Not only that, but it was a downward slope.
Oh,
And that's what kind of did it. And of course it tore up his ligaments. We're getting all sorts of fire from the bad guys. Quinn shows up. I put Tony on the jungle penetrator because he refuses to land. And finally, we make our way towards the center of, and I don't know why he didn't do this before, to the center of the LZ, which was quite a distance, and we're getting fired on and everything else. And we all load up into the helicopter and off we come back. And that was it. But it was a royal cluster.
RT-ASP with your since you have North Vietnamese that speak in that with that North Vietnamese accent, did you put them with an AK up front?
Oh, yeah.
Dressed like NVA.
In fact, we would have our lead man, our point man, Tan. He would be in dressed North Vietnamese outfit, and usually whoever was going to be my tail gunner, most of the time it was Nook. So Nook would be my tail gunner, and he would be dressed in North Vietnamese, AK, and everything else.
Yeah. And what did you carry? You have your Carr 15 at this point?
Carr 15, and I had a hand-me-down 25 caliber. That was a hand-me-down that I carried. In fact, I'm trying to remember who gave it to me. Anyway, I had a 25 caliber that was handed down to me. And carried that.
And how about, you remember what watch you had back then? Did you have a Seiko?
I had a Seiko, and then I had a Rolex.
Nice.
And then I had the same Seiko that I had before. The Rolex, when we got mortared one night and went out the door, and it slipped off, and I lost it.
Oh, no.
So somewhere in that camp, there's a Rolex, a GMT Master. So anyway.
Did you get it at the PX for like $100, $200?
At the China Fleet Club in Hong Kong.
Ah, do you remember what you paid for it?
$140.
$140. Amazing.
You can get a Submariner for $120.
Wow. You should have bought 30 of them.
Well, funny you should mention that, because Charlie Vickers, Sergeant Major Vickers, he said, "Don't tell anybody that you're going to Hong Kong." I says, "Why not?" He says, "Because they're going to bombard you with all sorts of things for you to buy." The morning that I was going to leave, "Hey, Pugh, I understand you're going to Hong Kong." "Yeah." "Hey, listen, for Submariner, hey, get me a GMT. Hey."
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Those ones are fetch quite the price these days.
Oh, I know that. Yes.
Yeah. I worked one into my novel.
We're talking the Pepsi deal with the GMT Master.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I put a Submariner, the 1968 version into my novels from the beginning. And then in this one that is coming out in October, I explain how the dad of my protagonist, who's a SEAL, but he's with MACV-SOG in Vietnam at this point, and I describe how he gets that watch. So watches have always been a big part of my life from the earliest days, and then it was very natural for me to put them into the book. So I'm always very curious about what guys carried and what there was on their strap, if he had a Waltham compass on it, and if he switched out the band or all that sort of thing.
Now, what was your status symbol back then, as a SEAL?
Yeah, there were watch guys, and then there were people that just didn't care. We got issued the Casio.
Right.
The Tudors were issued to, I think most guys, they would buy Rolexes in Vietnam in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
But they were issued, some of the UDTs and SEAL teams got issued the Tudors. So those would have been issued Submariners that they got from Tudor. But the actual Rolex, the subs that most guys got, those ones they would buy. And I know you guys got the GMT Master was the one that you gravitated towards. But for our generation, it was a lot of us had Rolexes, but we were issued the G-Shock. But your ball cap from your platoon, every platoon had a little different ball cap. Gator sunglasses, a big watch of some sort. So either a Rolex or the issued Casio, flip flops, shorts and a t-shirt type thing. But I think that was pretty much for our generation. And then the tattoos started coming in, I think. So there was always, some guys that would have sleeves, but then it got a lot more common the longer that I stayed in. But
speaking of tattoos, that was a big no-no for us in Special Forces in the early days.
Interesting.
October 68. Yeah, October 68. I had just made E5 at Fort Bragg. And they said, Pugh, you speak Spanish? I go, yeah. Radio operator, yeah. Report to 7th Group. So we went to 7th Group, did some training with them for about a week. Then when I was processing out, I met a guy from 7th Group, and he said, hey, Pugh, you trained with us for a week or so back in October. I said, yeah. I says, you know what it was? I said, no, I was just training. It was a composite team. We had guys from 6th Group, 7th, 3rd Group, and we had some other guys there too. And he says, what happened was the junior radio operator went downtown and got himself a tattoo. Big no-no. So they bumped him off the team. They got the junior radio operator from the backup team, got him up to primary. So now the backup team needed a junior radio operator. Ta-da!
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Wow.
So whatever the mission was, I don't know what it was, because I never went to isolation.
Okay. Got it. So if you take August 23rd off the board, what mission stands out in your head as either the sketchiest, the toughest, when you think back on those missions that you did across the border, across the fence, which mission stands out to you as in your head when you think of that time frame?
You know what? I've thought about that. I really have. Each one had their own little niche to it. One would be weather related. We had to get out before the weather would come in. Everything was going good, but we were waiting, weather related. Another one was we were being chased, and it was a race between the bad guys and the helicopters.
Okay.
So each one had their own little things. So I really can't say which one was more exciting than the other, because each one had their own little thing. And I wish I could answer that question definitively, but I can't, because each one was different.
Yeah.
And each one had their own little quirks to it.
Yeah.
And some of them had their own Keystone Cop moments too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They all do, I think.
Yeah. I mean,
missions in general, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, we were up in what we call Nickel Steel, which was the tri-border area, North Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and South Vietnam. And it was early morning, and we were moving, we were breaking trail. And that particular area where we were was just crisscrossed with footpaths. And Nook signaled that he had to go bathroom. Really, really, really bad. So we stopped in place. And he drops his gear and he grabs a hold of a pole. And he is kind of like doing that pole squat, And out of nowhere, we hear voices. And all of a sudden, there they are on a footpath there. I mean, there.
Mm-hmm.
And they walk right by us. I look up at Nook, and his eyes are that big around, and there's a turd coming out of his butt. And then we're all just like going, oh my God, he went right by us. You know, so yeah, that was a Keystone moment.
Yeah. I think every mission has them from the beginning of time onward. I would guess. But did you ever think about what you were doing while you were doing it? Meaning how crazy it was to be a part of MACV-SOG in 1968, going across the border. Did you stop to think about it, or was it just something that you did? Did it become your normal?
It just became our normal stuff. We didn't think about it so much. It wasn't until later, when some of the information that we brought back, and we started reading newspaper clippings from the past, that we're going, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right. It's been twisted and what have you. And so yeah, that was interesting, because we, as you well know, in reconnaissance, we get raw information. It's raw information. That raw information is then sent to the analyst, and it becomes a dot. And then that dot is connected with other dots, and that becomes intelligence. But what we're gathering is just raw information. Right. Just raw information. It's not intelligence. It's information. Yeah. The analysts, they are the ones that are getting the intelligence.
Yeah. And when you come back, you have an experience, and I would ask you, it's in the book here, but you're in Seattle Airport. I believe you're with a friend, or the characters are. Yeah. Was that something that happened in real life to you? Can you describe that?
That happened verbatim. In the book, I'm with Sam Waters. In reality, it was this other E6 that I had just met there at SeaTac. And you have to remember, this is before security protocols and everything. And I saw this was my first hippie. Had the long hair, had what I would say the Jesus Christ beard, skinny guy, bell-bottom jeans, a green paisley shirt, long sleeve shirt, and a brown leather vest. He had green eyes. To this day, I can still see him in my mind's eye. And he's passing out flowers. Peace, brother, peace, brother. And he sees us. He says, hey, Green Beret, just come back from the Nam. Tell me, which medal did you get for raping women? How does it feel to squash a baby's head? And he made the mistake of almost touching me. And I got up real close and personal. And I said, Mister, I've never killed a man in anger. Please, don't be the first. And I meant it. That man was already dead. In my mind, I had already killed him. He was dead, and he didn't even know it. And he backed away, and he said, hey, peace, brother, peace. And he walked away. And I was not aware of it at the time. But my hands were shaking. And the guy that was right next to me said, don't tell me you were afraid of that piece of shit. I says, I wasn't afraid. I was just trying to control my anger because he was dead. He just didn't know it. And at that moment, if that other E6 had not stopped me, I was going to turn right around and get on the bus and go back to Fort Lewis and take that plane back to Vietnam. That's how I felt. And it was serious. It really was. I had some issues, not with PTSD, but PTS. In writing the novel, Surrender Not an Option, it took me over 20 years to write. And it was therapy. It was therapy. And I was able to sleep at night. Nightmares were getting less and less. And when I first came back, I went back to school, went back to North Texas State University. And of course, being the oldest one there, I could get liquor because you have to be 21. And you know how college kids are. Anyway, so we had a party every night at my apartment. Every night. And one morning, I woke up and I poured myself a drink. And I remember to this day picking it up, and I was about to drink it. And I looked at it and I said, what the hell am I doing? And I put it down and I just kept looking at it. And this is in the days before VCRs and things of that nature. And mentally, I went ahead and put pause, rewind, play. And I relived my Vietnam experience. And I said to myself, that's a crutch. I am not sick, and I am not weak. I don't need it. So I went to the kitchen sink and poured it out. That night we had the usual party. Hey, Gene, let me fix your drink. No, I'll fix it myself. And if you would talk to some of the guys back then, they go, Gene Pugh can drink. It was ginger ale. They didn't see me fix the drinks. I'd fix ginger ale, and that's what I drank. I drank that for 5 years, almost 6 years. And then one day I decided to take a drink. I got sick. If you come to my house, I have a full bar. I'll offer you a drink. And I will drink with you one drink. And that's it. I don't need it. But I drink it. I enjoy it. I enjoy a good single malt scotch. But I only have one drink.
Well, I think you deserve it.
And that's it, But yet, I got a full bar, but I only drink that one little bit.
I think that's wise.
Yeah, because I control it.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. And you come back. So you go to school, you come back, you become a pilot, I think, somewhere along the line here. And then you link up with someone named George Petrie. Is that right?
Oh, good Lord. George Petrie.
Tell me about his background and how did you link up with this guy?
George Petrie, he was company commander with the second Mike Force, 2 Corps Mike Force, and call sign welder. He got a battlefield commission to first lieutenant. He was on the Sante raid. Retired as a major. And he had a private investigations company here in Dallas called Peregrine International. Now, George had worked with DEA and other alphabet groups. He was a contractor. And I met him at a social function, and somehow or another Vietnam came about. And so you're in Special Forces? Yeah, I'm in Special Forces. And during that time period, in the 80s.
So this is the 80s when you meet him.
This is the 80s, yeah.
Okay.
It's the 80s. There were a lot of wannabes and that kind of stuff. So then he goes, all right, you're in Special Forces, all right. Give me some names.
Play the name game.
Gave the name game. So I started naming names and places and locations and everything else. It was okay. Yeah. So then that was it. So that became it. And then some of the guys that we both knew showed up here in Dallas. So then there was,
yeah,
well, home week.
Okay.
So yeah.
And does he ask you, say, hey, I have this business here, and I think you're looking for any work?
Yeah. So that was basically it. And so we did a lot of stuff in Central and South America, mostly Central America. And because I was born and raised in Panama, I speak Spanish with a Panamanian accent. And so that was always, always my cover.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been a captain once. I've been a comandante once. I've been a government official once. And I've been a lawyer once. I was promoted to government official in the elevator. We were in Venezuela, and we were going there to the Treasury, one of the ministers from the Treasury Department there in Venezuela. And we had just gotten off the plane, and we were talking to Miguel, who made our contact and everything else. And I said, hey guys, what about me? And George looked at me and his eyes got really big, and he goes, you're a government official. Government official of what? And the elevator doors open up. And we were escorted in, and I'm like, oh, good Lord. But it worked out interesting. We went in, got introduced. Ese es el señor Pugh, es oficial del gobierno americano. I was it. I'm official from the American government. Sat down. So George starts talking, and I put my hand on the table, and it hit. My watch hit the table. Of course, it made a sound. So George turns around and looks at me. Miguel looks at me, and there's a pause. Then George turns around, and now he becomes more aggressive with the government official. So now the government official now is looking at me as kind of like the source of power.
Right.
I'm not saying a word. In fact, I only said was, how do you do? And goodbye. That was my whole thing the entire time. George did all the talking. Nothing came about from it, but that's beside the point. But it was that everything's shifted. George did all the talking, and the guy who kept looking at me kept looking at George, kept looking at me, looked at George and looked at me. But it was, I now became a non-speaking power.
Yeah. Right.
And it was interesting. When we got out of there, George looked at me and says, damn, that was brilliant, Pugh.
Yeah. Did you put that in one of your novels?
Not yet.
Not yet. It'd be a good one to put in there in a future one. And so you're mostly doing security work down there, or investigations, or both?
Yes, we did security work. We went after some bad people that had defrauded certain people. And so we went looking for them. In my novel, The Diplomat.
Yeah. It's at another location right now, I think. It was delivered today, I think.
Yeah. The real deal if you recall, 1988, there was a truce between the Sandinistas and the Contras. Okay? There was going to be free elections in Nicaragua in March of 1990. Nicaragua had 14 political parties at that time. So you're going to have 14 candidates against Daniel Ortega. Guess who's going to win?
Yeah.
Daniel Ortega. So, and I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but Ambassador Jean Kirkpatrick was sent to broker a deal with the 14 political parties so they could support one candidate against Daniel Ortega. And we were sent to Guatemala. So we had to exfiltrate 14 members out and 14 members back in. And, oh, by the way, Violeta Chamorro, who became president of Nicaragua, passed away a couple of days ago at the age of 95.
Oh, wow. Wow. Is that the one where you work your way up to the front of the security line, something like that, and stand next to?
Oh, no, that was in Panama. That was in a total different deal. We were at the Hotel de la Cruz, and we see all these people marching by. And George says, "Come on, Pugh, let's go up there." Says, no. Come on. You don't have a hair on your butt if you don't come with me. I go, okay. So we walk up there, and there's Noriega up on the stage. And George says, "See how close you can get to him." Remember I told you that I'm not very smart? So I worked my way through the crowd, and all of a sudden I'm at the front, and there's this sawhorse. And right in front of me, there's a guy with a white guayabera shirt, black pants, with a mustache, clean-cut haircut. Guess who also has a clean haircut and a mustache, wearing a white guayabera shirt, long sleeve, and black pants. So I'm looking at him. And all of a sudden I go, so I go back into the crowd, disappear, come back out again, look at him, and I shake my head. So I go back into the crowd, go over there, come back, shake my head, no. And then this is where you don't know if you're doing something smart or something just plain stupid. So I crawl underneath the sawhorse and I stand right next to him. Todo está bien. Everything's okay. So I work my way over where the stairwell is, and there's a woman there, and Noriega walks down the stairs right in front of me. So then we go back to the Hotel de la Cruz. George is like, "What the hell were you doing over there?" And he gets a phone call. "Señor Petri, teléfono." "Hello, Petri speak." "Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir. No, sir. We're not going to do that shit anymore." So it's
So you had some adventures down there.
Yeah, we had some moments, yeah.
And I want to ask you about the other books. And I think I ordered 3. Is that right? If there's 5 other ones, and there was 3.
Yeah, there's the reunion mission. It's just based on some fact stuff. And in Panama, inter stuff in Panama. As you know, I was born and raised there. I bring out a lot of my personal history into that book. It's actually Sam Waters' narrative there. And the Diplomat, again, it's a novel, but I'll be more than happy to show you some photographs of the novel.
Yeah.
And rather interesting. In fact, when you read the Diplomat, I really, really would like to have you. Who would you like to play Chela and Bela?
All right. I'll let you know.
I have an idea who I want.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
But because I wrote them, when I started writing it, I had these two actresses in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you a hint. Chela would be Salma Hayek, and Bela would be Penelope Cruz.
Well, that's more than a hint.
Okay. But now, I know it's more of a hint.
No, more than a hint.
More than a hint. But now I've been looking at a couple of other actresses that could play those parts.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
Because Salma's getting a little bit, getting a bit up in age, and so is Penelope, But I've got two other actresses that
Oh, fantastic! I will definitely let you know what I think when I read.
Yeah, because I write screenplays, as you well know, and
you've done one for this. You've done one for Surrender Not an Option. Is that right?
I do. In fact, a gentleman read the book and he said, "You know what? This would be an interesting TV series, HBO series type thing."
Nice.
He says, "Why don't you go ahead and write the first episode?" I said, "Fine." So I went ahead and wrote the first episode. During this was going on, there were some issues with the gentleman. We won't go into that. But one of the things he said was, just go ahead and write the first episode, and then we'll get a professional writer and write the other 11. I said, wait a minute. Where are you going to get your information? He says, we're going to call some of the guys. I says, I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. You're going to call up Baby Son. You say, hey, Baby Son, my name is John Doe. I'm over here. I'm going to write a script, blah, blah, blah. And Baby Son is going to say, up yours. Now I can call Baby Son up. I says, hey, Baby Son. And we talk a little bit. Tell me about the mission. Oh, which one? And I tell him, he goes, oh, yeah. You got a beer? So he tells me about the mission. So I write it all in. I can get a hold of a Blackjack. I can get a hold of Worthen. I can get a hold of a bunch of the other guys because we have that connection. And I tell them what I'm writing it about, where it's going, and so on and so forth, up front with them. And there are no issues. But as you well know, a civilian trying to get into our world, they don't speak our language. They don't speak our language. And so I ended up writing all 12 episodes.
Oh, wow.
So I've got all 12 episodes for that.
Oh, fantastic.
And I wrote the screenplay for The Attack on Our Camp.
Wow.
August the 23rd. In fact, that's the title of it.
Wow.
And I've got some friends of mine, the guys, and you know how we gravitate to people within our group?
Mm-hmm.
We just naturally gravitate. These are the younger version of ourselves, CAG, Delta, Delta guys, and so on and so forth. And so I've written three screenplays. The third screenplay is it's a trilogy, same basic characters, and but it's the upscaled non-Vietnam stuff.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Are you still doing that stuff right now?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah. In fact,
another book in the works?
I've written total 5, 3 published. So yes, I'm going through the editing phase for the other 2 books. I'm writing the novel version of Aztec Eagles, which is a script that I wrote.
Oh.
World War II, Mexicans flying for us in the Philippines.
Oh, wow.
So I'm doing that. Then I'm doing Veterans Mortgage of America. As a veteran, our board is made up of veterans, every one of us. We have 3 Army, 1 Marine, we got to have a Marine, and 1 Air Force. So all of us are veterans, and we have a lot of fun. But why is it that they call it military service? Is because we continue to serve. It's in our DNA. We don't wear the cloth of our nation anymore. But we still want to serve in some capacity or other. Whether it's mentoring, which is what I try to do and you try to do, I know you do. Mentor the next generation because they are going to be tested. And that is the reason why we survived, is to pass that torch to the younger generation. And if we don't do that, it's our fault. We have to pass the core values of what made us who we are, you and I, and what made this country great. And we have to pass on those core values to the younger generation. And having said that, it satisfies me. Let's say, hey, I did my job and more. I helped save the life. I helped to find a future for someone that was lost. And I can go to my grave saying to Almighty God, thank you for the ride, Lord. It's been great. And what else can I say?
Wow. Well, I can't think of a better way to wrap this up than those words right there.
More than welcome, brother. And anytime you're in Dallas, and that would be remiss if you come down. If I find out you come down to Dallas and you didn't come and see me.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to do that because I think I might be stopping there on book tour. I have to go look. We're figuring out the book tour in October right now. I don't know the exact locations and dates yet, but I will be in touch for sure. I would love to see you, shake your hand in person, and that'd be fantastic. So I just want to thank you for writing this book right here. It was so helpful as I was writing Cry Havoc. I referenced this so many times, and there'll be a Cry Havoc signed first edition heading your way as soon as it's published.
Thank you so much, Jack. I really appreciate it. And the thing about it is, we served in different eras, different time periods, but combat is combat. Combat is combat, and there's really no difference. A bullet is a bullet, and whether it's fired from an AK-47 in Vietnam to an AK-47 shot today. And so, yeah, we are blood brothers, and you need me. I expect to be that number one on that phone.
Well, it goes both ways. Thank you so much. And thank you for stepping up to serve this nation when you did back in 1968, like we talked about before. That was no joke of a year right there, the bloodiest year of the conflict.
It was very bloody, yeah.
Man, just appreciate everything you guys did back then. Think about it every day. So it's sincerely appreciated and will not be forgotten.
I appreciate that, and thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this time with you, and for you to continue carrying the torch. When the Vietnam vets were all gone, you continue carrying that torch, and that we pass on to you. And thank you so much for carrying it for us.
Oh, well, Thank you for everything. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
This episode of the Danger Close podcast is brought to you by Cry Havoc. From New York Times #1 best-selling author, Jack Carr. Cry Havoc, a Tom Reese thriller. Order now.
Watch a Cry Havoc teaser here, or watch another episode of the podcast here.